A few of my viewers asked me some questions. I was just going over my comments this morning from my YouTube channel from viewers like you. And they asked me some questions, so I figured I'll put the show together and answer your questions in detail because some of the questions are repeat questions. So stay tuned. Hello, welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. I got a really great question from one of my viewers yesterday, Linda Lockhart. She asked me what my intentions are with my animals. And then another viewer last week asked me the same question. And then I got another question from a viewer. He noticed that the pond was kind of low. And so here's the answers to those two questions. As far as the pond is concerned, what happened was some years back, the next door neighbor was getting ready to sell his land, but he harvested a bunch of timber off of it and profited from that. Then he marketed his land and sold that. So with the logging operation done up there, with each successive rainfall, the disturbed land and soil is kind of flushed right down through, and it all flushes right down through this little stream right into my pond. And my pond is evident of where all that sediment came from. So I got part of his real estate in my pond. You can see how deep the pond is. It's not very deep at all. When I first moved here, the pond was this deep. But it's filled up quite a ways. If the water is at its deepest, it's probably only shin deep to me, which is not a good thing. I want to be able to have the pond, restore it back to its original depth. I'm going to do that by borrowing the tractor from Acorn Acres. A friend of mine has a really great tractor down there, front end loader. And I'm going to bring it over here once the pond is dried up and then scoop out all the sediment and then move it to my front yard because it's great material for my for landscaping the front of my place, because I haven't really done much to the front of my homestead at all. All the time and energy was done back here. But yeah, you can see where the water went down and it came back up again yesterday. We had a torrential downpour. So it's going to be probably later this summer, in a couple of months, that it's dry enough that I can get the tractor in here and do it. But in the meantime, I've got kiddie pools set out for the ducks and the geese to be able to have water. And while there's still water in the pond, they still take advantage of the pond. Now, as touching on the animals, the subject of the animals and what my intentions are. I've been farming for many years and I've been raising goats for many years. These goats are a Nubian goat. They're called the American Nubian goat. These are two does. They're a year old. They're about ready to breed now. I bought them really young. And then I went over to another county and purchased two bucklings that are registered. I'm building an area for the two bucklings and bringing them over. And when these girls get into season, I'm going to breed each girl with each buckling. So we'll have a variety or a diversity of bloodline as far as the kids go. That way, the does will now start lactating. We're going to pull the babies off the does early and then start milking at least one of them. And that's my intentions. Number one for the goats is to provide the milk for the homestead. From the milk product, we can make cheese, creams, lotions. We can make soaps. And there's a variety of different products you can make from goat milk. And of course, there's the cost of raising goats. So a way to offset those costs, oh, the costs are the feed and the hay that you purchase for them to feed them, especially through the winter months. In the spring and summer months, there's no problem. You can see that they have all this lush green pasture area to feed on. But selling the babies once they're old enough, we can generate enough of a revenue that the goats pay for themselves, and we get a little bit of a profit on the homestead. And then every once in a while, we can raise a buckling and we can send it to freezer camp. So we'll have protein on the farm raising our own food. So that's the purpose for the goats. Now, the reason why I chose this specific breed, the American Nubian, I feel as a homesteader that is the perfect goat for the size we need for meat, harvesting for meat. And there are other breeds of goats that's like, they're just a meat goat, which is a boar. And then there are just dairy goats, which are like La Mancha. This goat is an all-around good breed to have multi-purpose in both respects. And their babies sell real fast. I've had experience in the past where these does will throw triplets. Their lineage, their bloodline, they always throw triplets. And I'd list the babies on Craigslist and they were sold. All three of them were sold within an hour of me posting them on Craigslist. So I have no problem selling babies and generating a profit for the homestead and buying the feed for the goats. Now, with the little bucklings, when I bring them over to the ranch here on the end of June, probably around December, they'll be old enough to finally breed with my two does. They should start coming into season around October, November, but I'm gonna wait till the bucklings are just old enough and mature enough to be able to breed with them. But here is another avenue for revenue for the homestead to help cover the overhead costs of raising goats. And that is sire my bucklings out to local people in the Southern Oregon, Northern California area to bring their does in and have serviced by my bucks for $40 per service. And then these bucks are registered. So it'll help add a little bit more diversity of the bloodline also to the region. So there's yet another avenue for revenue to help beat the overhead costs of running the farm, and also explaining what my intentions for using my animals are. Let's talk about the geese. You can see they're just now heading down towards the pond. I have 3 geese and 2 ganders, and so we were able to get some fertile eggs. One goose sat on a bunch of eggs. Total fail. I don't know what happened to her eggs, but none of them hatched, and she's been still trying to hatch them out, but she's off the nest now. I got to clean those eggs up, get them taken away. But I do have this goose here in the quack shack that is sitting on a clutch of eggs, and she just started setting because she just laid them. And I see where she has rejected some eggs, so they may instinctively know what eggs are not viable because she'll kick them out of the nest. If we incubate the eggs in incubators, we have to use a flashlight to candle the eggs to find out what's viable and what's not. So these geese are pretty smart. I'm letting her hatch the eggs. I do have plans of turning a malfunctioned freezer into an egg incubator with automatic turners. I've been searching for all the bits and pieces and parts for that as a future project to put together. And I'm also going to build a separate little building because I want to contain it in a separate little building and build a rack of brooders for the babies. Now, the reason for that is I can raise goslings and I can sell the goslings, and some goslings I can cull, and we can roast goose from time to time. Again, a source of protein and a source of revenue for the homestead. Now, this particular breed of goose is called the American Buff Goose. This is a heritage breed. These almost went extinct because they fell out of favor with the farmer, the homesteader, because they're not a big goose. Everybody's thinking big. So I'm not. I'm thinking quality. And this goose is a good all-around docile goose. When they're not breeding or brooding, they're like puppy dogs. They'll follow me around. But boy, they're like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When there's a baby around or the goose is on the nest, the gander, he'll chase you. But they won't come in contact with me. They'll just act like they're defending their gooseness. Anyway, that's nature. That's just the nature of the way it is. Now I've got turkey poults here. These are called Narragansette turkeys. This is, again, is a heritage breed. They also were bred for the American homestead. And I raised these out for sale around the holiday season. And that I also have a breeding pair that too, I can collect the eggs, put them in the incubator I'm building, and hatch turkey poults, and sell also the turkey poults. So my intentions for these are to eat a couple, share a couple with my family, and then sell babies to offset the food cost for what I pay to feed them. So we're operating with zero overhead. It's time for me to construct a better enclosed facility for the bigger ones, because they're ready to go and just run free here in the gobbler gallery, and that's what their housing is going to be called. They need shelter and they need a protective aviary to protect them from. Now these birds, they're prone to fly, and I have a lot of wild turkeys that come through the homestead. And the possibility of my turkeys flying off with a wild tom, is probably 100%. So that's why I have to have them in a complete enclosed environment so they don't fly away. Now there's a way I can just turn them loose and let them free range, and I have to clip their wings, and I may end up doing that. But I can contain them better and collect eggs better when they become mature enough to keep them in the aviary and the gobbler gallery. So let's move on to the ducks. My intentions with the ducks is I've got a male or two males and two females. I discovered that one of the ducks is lame. We've got a lame duck on the farm, and that happens. It's just a genetic mutation that occurs sometimes. But I got these three young ducks and this older duck, and pretty soon he'll be able to breed with one of the female ducks. But whoever the lame duck is, if it's the male or the female, they're going to have to be culled because I can't allow that genetics to be brought through the eggs. And there we go. I'm going to take the eggs, collect them, put them in the incubator, and incubate them. This breed is not a great breed for becoming broody on their eggs. I had the duck last year that was so lazy. She did not want to brood her own eggs. She'll go lay them in a goose nest and make the goose hatch her eggs. So the goose was successful at hatching some ducklings, but then once they were hatched, she rejected them, so I ended up having to raise them. So I'm just going to go ahead, collect eggs, put them in the incubator, and then I'll sell the ducklings, and also we'll cull and rotate our flock. So we'll have a duck dinner maybe once every other month or so. Duck is excellent. It's a good protein. It makes a good meal. Oh, delicious. So this is a farm. This is what we do. This is what my ancestors have done for centuries, is raise animals for food. And then, of course, selling some ducklings in the season, I can generate some revenue to be able to offset their upkeep with purchasing food for them. So hopefully, I could break even with the ducks. Now we get to the bunny bungalow. With each livestock I have on my homestead, before I acquired that livestock, I had to sit down and decide what type of livestock do I feel comfortable raising on my farm, and also with the type of land I have on my farm, what kind of livestock can I accommodate? And then, and with the mindset of becoming totally self-sufficient, and if need be, have something that, that livestock, that which often farmers do, they will barter with their livestock, bartering back and forth for something they don't have, and it works out great for the community. The rabbits I chose are the American New Zealand breed. This is a white breed. They come in various different colors. They've got broken, they got blue, they have red, they have white, they have black. These are the white satin rabbits, or the white New Zealand rabbits. These are bred specifically for the meat industry. In about 2 months, these rabbits will grow out to be about 8 pounds, which is fryer weight, right about there. And we do butcher and eat the rabbits. We slow roast them or slow cook them in a crock pot with some vegetables and some chicken stock. It's really, really good. My wife says it tastes kind of like turkey, but it has a unique flavor, and it's very, very good. Now, this is rabbit. This is not hare. Hare is a different creature genetically altogether. Just look it up if you doubt that. Anyway, these New Zealand rabbits, I built this shed particularly to accommodate them because we do get really cold in the winters, which these coated rabbits can endure. But if it gets too cold in nature, they would burrow. And in summertime, when it gets way too hot in nature, they would burrow. And so I have them caged, and I have them caged for a reason. I'll explain in a minute. I do have a solar panels on the roof, and it operates a air conditioner, so I can maintain the environment inside and keep the rabbits healthy and comfortable. Now, the reason why I keep my rabbits in cages, I have, if you notice on the floor of the cages, I have these tiles, so they're not on the wire floor all the time. They're not getting sore hocks. I have toys in there, like kitten toys. They love playing with those. And that way I keep them off the ground. I keep them healthy. In my experience, when I had rabbits in colonies on the ground, my rabbits would get ear mites and they get worms. Since these rabbits are food, no, they're just not going to be on the ground. I don't want worms. I don't want worms getting into my rabbits, and I don't want to deal with ear mites. Just try to do it as humanely as possible. These cages, the size of these cages are specified by the Rabbits Growers Association, whatever they call themselves, but I researched the size of cages before I purchased them on what was the suitable size for this type of rabbit. So yeah, the detentions for the rabbits are to cull and eat, and also we can use some pelts and sell the pelts. And the reason white is great because the furriers like to take the white and they can dye them in any color that they want. There's also some trucks that come through, and you can sell your rabbits to the trucks when they come through, and they'll take the rabbits to the bigger markets in Washington and California. And then they also like the white pelts better because when they get the pelts, they send them to the furriers, and the furriers, like I said, they can dye them to any color they want. And due to the diversity of bloodline that's introduced to our local area, I can also sire out my buck rabbit for $20 per doe serviced. That's right, pimp him out. So that's another avenue for revenue to help cover the overhead costs of raising rabbits, like buying the feed. So, some more information on what my intentions with my animals are. Now, with the chickens, I built the chicken coop. It's one of the first buildings I built on the farm when I first purchased the farm, and I did that in unison with building the other barn before I even brought the house over. But anyway, the chicken coop was constructed out of recycled, repurposed material, with the exception of some of the siding. I was able to raise some livestock and sell those and generate enough revenue to be able to purchase the extra stuff I needed to complete the chicken coop. The chickens, my intentions for chickens and why I have chickens, um, is the same reason why farmers have chickens. And even urban homesteaders, people in the backyards have chickens. They provide eggs. And it depends on how many chickens you want or need. It depends on what you're using them for. And this is an answer to another question from another viewer asked. They're aware that a famine may be coming and they want to get prepared, but they live in town and they're only allowed hens. So, okay, so you're going to have hens. You figure out what the size of your family is, how many eggs your family eats on average per day, and then calculate how many chickens you're going to need to produce eggs for your family's needs. Say if you have a family of four hens would do you just fine, but keep in mind those eggs will be unfertile. You need a rooster to fertilize the eggs, but you don't need a rooster for a hen to lay eggs. The hen will produce an egg just the same. So this particular breed I chose, again going back to what I mentioned earlier, is choosing what livestock and what breed of livestock I wanted for my homestead. So I researched all the chicken breeds and I came to the conclusion that the buff Orpington chicken is best suited for what I wanted it for because it's an all-around good breed for egg laying and meat. This is a larger breed of chicken. I mean, it's really, and it feathers out really nicely. They're really fluffy. So they're able to produce eggs almost throughout the whole year. There's maybe 1 or 2 months where they shut down, they go through molt, and then they start back up again. So all around, this is a really good bird. Plus, when you dress them, they're a really nice sized bird for the table. Excellent breed. They're very friendly, really docile. They don't run off like some other chickens might do, but this breed is probably the most superior breed I have found among chickens. I've raised other types of chickens before, like Rhode Island Reds and what do they call them? Barred Rock chickens. A Barred Rock is a kind of a good chicken. We had a pet Barred Rock hen. Her name was Betty the Barred Rock. Really cute. She was very friendly. Anyway, my experience with Rhode Island Reds, the roosters, well, put it this way, they're really cocky. They can get really mean, and with mean roosters, let's put it this way. I have a good recipe for coq au. Yep. But anyway, production for eggs and meat for the table. Now, I'm letting the hens sit on their eggs right now because I would manage to get a rooster. And with now I have fertilized eggs, we're going to grow out more hens or more chicks. I've got to build another environment for the roosters because I want to keep the roosters separate from the hens, and then we'll cull the roosters, but we can also sell sets. Yes, I could grow them out and get mature rooster with a couple of mature hens, like 3 mature hens, and sell them as a set to other homesteads. There's a lot of people going off grid and they don't have the convenience of having electricity, so a brooder light, an incubator, and all that stuff is not what they're looking for, not advantageous to them. So if I can sell them to the mature rooster with hens, they won't need the electricity and they can start the egg production right away. And I can command a little bit better price on that. I also can sell my eggs and then gift my chickens to my neighbors and my family so they can have meat on the table too. That too will offset the cost that I have to pay to feed the chickens. Now, when the garden's environment is finished, I'll have it fenced off. The chickens won't be able to get in the garden, and then my chickens will be able to free range once more. Right now, they're in lockdown because my garden is really vulnerable, and what chickens love to do in a garden is they like to take dust baths in your soil, and in the process, they're digging up your newly planted plants and seeds, and your garden is a mess. Chickens and gardens do not get along when your garden is new. Now, let's not forget another livestock. Yes, bees are now considered livestock for the farm. I chose to raise just 4 colonies of bees. If I want to increase to any more, I'll move them over to the other farm at Acorn Acres and have 4 or 5 hives down there. The reason why I only choose 4 hives is because if you have 5 or more, you have to register with the state. And really, I'm not at that position or the energy level that I want to get into bees that seriously and have more than 4 hives. Literally, 1 hive is enough for me. We gleaned so much honey out of that 1 hive that we're still using it. And I still have a jar ready for the county fair. If we have the county fair this year, that's still up in the air because of this pandemic. But for bees, the reason why I have bees is a multitude of reasons. My motto that I have coined and have been saying in almost every episode of my beekeeping videos is, you save the bees, you save the world. You need pollinators. You need pollinators to sustain the food crops, because there's a lot of food crops that need the bee or the pollinator for the pollination for the foods to be able to grow. So one reason is these bees will help my garden pollinate, and then I will have a bountiful harvest. Also, bees provide not only honey, they also provide what they call bee pollen. There's little, it's high in protein, so you can collect that from the bottoms of the trays. I don't collect it, I just let the bees have it all. There's another product that the bees will supply, and that is propolis. That is a little waxy type, thick brown coating that they coat the inside of their hives with, and they fill in all of their cracks and crevices with it. That is bee medicine. Where they get it is they harvest it from the saps of trees. And if anybody knows about the medicinal value of the sap of a pine tree, you'll know that it's an antiseptic. Well, the bees instinctively know to collect this stuff, and they use it for the health of their own hive. If they need some medicine, they'll go eat some of their propolis that they've glean. Now you can collect the propolis, and I know some beekeepers collect it and they sell it to the pharmaceutical industry. Yep, that's right. And there's another product that the bees, 2 more products that the bees provide. Another one is called royal jelly. Royal jelly is also used in the cosmetic and the pharmaceutical industry. And then the cosmetic industry, they'll buy the beeswax. These are the cappings that they put on the little honeycombs. They'll purchase that, and if you look in like your lipsticks, ingredients, and other cosmetic ingredients, you'll find that there's beeswax in them. And yep, that's where it comes from. These little creatures, they're fantastic to have around the homestead. I sure enjoy these ladies. So that's as far as the goats goes. I hope I answered all your questions. The pond, the geese, the ducks, the turkeys, the rabbits, the chickens, and the honeybees. Am I forgetting anything? Yes, I am. What I haven't shown you guys is the worm bin. technically worms are not considered livestock, but for a farming operation, especially when you're growing vegetables, and by the way, a lot of the stuff that I don't use for myself, I get to feed to the chickens and the rabbits, and they love it. But with the worm bin that I put together in the greenhouse, I just reused an old bathtub that was left here on the homestead. When I first bought the homestead, the former home was uh, it was a wreck. It was a non-existent, so we just cleaned it up. Used the bathtub, put it on this little stand, and then had this wire thing that I had found. I forgot where I found it. Somewhere along my journeys. Made a wonderful tabletop and fit perfectly for this for a work surface. So anytime I do some planting, in working on the work surface, whatever falls through goes down into the worm bin. And the worms, I keep feeding them, and they keep, well, doing what worms do and creating a wonderful organic mixture that I can add to my plants, and my plants just absolutely love it. And then, of course, with the drain in the bathtub, that harvests the fluids left over from the worms, and that drains down and drips into the bucket. That is gold, real gold, and that will help out the garden also. I could also bottle it, yep, and sell it. There you go. Another revenue for the farm. And any excess worms I could harvest and sell also. The worm of choice that I'm using is the red wrigglers. Those are the most prolific growers in the worm that I know of, and they're excellent for my garden. Now we just started vermiculture. That's what it's called, is vermiculture. We just started it. It's new to me. I'm still learning on it. So I'm just giving you an overview on it. When I get more details about it, and then I can learn more, I want to be able to present a program to you on just vermiculture, on what I've learned about it, and that way I really know what I'm talking about when I do the total presentation. And in answer to some future questions, I'm creating some more grow space in the greenhouse, and we're going to be getting more trays and more little containers to be able to start seed. And next year, I hope to start generating a revenue through the use of the greenhouse, and that starting plants to start and selling them to the community. Yeah, all kinds of potential for revenue here on the homestead to help meet the overhead costs of operations to run a little farm. Self-sufficient, self-reliant little farm. Might add that grow light in there. Well, that grow light runs off of that solar panel system. Yep, more than enough power that I need. So now my month-to-month cost has diminished quite a bit. Well, I hope I answered all of your questions sufficiently, and please stay tuned to more videos. You could do that by subscribing, then clicking that bell icon. That alerts you to new videos as I upload them. Feel free to give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, please like the channel. Also, click that share button and share my videos on your social media platforms. Really helps out a lot. Hey, if you guys are looking to start a new homestead yourself, give you some tips. I provided some links down below in the description. If you guys are watching it on a computer, you can click on those links. Please do. I created some valuable information. This is stuff that I've done personally, and I've had testimonies from others who had followed the same pattern that I explained to them and have been successful. There's people out there finding their dream homestead and putting their lives together that way. So take some time and check out those links and watch those videos. It shows you how I built this homestead, just in the same manner I've been explaining through this whole show, is raising livestock, selling them, buying material that I can't get for free from estate cleanups or that the contractors are giving me, all kinds of ways to do it for cheap or free, even finding land for cheap. There's all kinds of stuff. We'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.